I think his bond should have been considered before this.
It really made me cry because I don't see how you could treat anybody like that.
I think his bond should have been considered before this. It really made me cry because I don't see how you could treat anybody like that. The judge finally made his decision on YNW Melly's bond request to be released from his inhumane jail conditions. With the court hearing beginning with a statement, VSO officer admits that YNW Melly's cell has been searched every day during his 7-year detainment. No items or contraband have ever been found since 2019. And the BSO officer admits there has never been a single time that YNW Melly had an altercation. BSO officer admits that YNW Melly has not spoken to any family members in 6 years. After court, YNW Melly's mother even further explained about how they are treating him inside a lockup. And I know people didn't believe me when I was saying just how horrible they were treating him. But to hear it come out of that BSO officer's mouth, it really brought it home, and it hurt. Like, it really made me cry because I don't see how you could treat anybody like that. It's innocent to proven guilty, but they are treating him worse than anybody I've ever heard of. The doctor even said he's never heard of someone being kept up underneath such seclusion in such harsh conditions. I just want him to be able to at least come home. What many don't even know is Jamie King exposed a county jail over a year ago about Melly's jail situation, but nobody listened, which is a clear indication that something is flawed in the court system. When you saw Melly's statement just saying how he's being hurt, how he's scared for his life as a mother, how did that make you feel? It's heartbreaking. It made me feel completely helpless. Broward Sheriff's Office definitely needs to be investigated. I mean, they are making up their own rules. We've tried to go to court about this situation. The judge really doesn't have any jurisdiction when it comes to the jail calls we actually had a hearing about. The mistreatment of him in the jail they make their own rules, and I don't think that's fair because I know that they need to answer to someone too. If it wasn't bad enough, next in court Red Norman says that no person should ever go more than 15 days in isolation, mentions the Nelson Mandela Act that was passed in 2015. Norman, a psychiatrist, says that Welly's jail conditions and admits that he has never even spoken to him. He has never seen anyone in a similar isolation for such a lengthy amount of time, saying, quote, "I don't know if I've ever heard of anyone with 7 years of isolation." Norman compares YNW Melly's conditions to the film Castaway, starring Tom Hanks. Norman says Melly's adolescent brain, while detained for 7 years, could be damaging. Brains don't fully develop its frontal cortex in adults until age 24 to 25. Melly's isolation will have long-term consequences, meaning what he has gone through in the last 7 years is going to affect him for the rest of his life. You would think hearing this they would want Melly freed from jail right away. But right before the judge made his decision, Melly's team even announced YNW Melly's team has already set up a house for him with a pool and a music studio where he would be able to freely make music if he is granted bond. He wouldn't have to leave it until trial next year, where even the famous lawyer Bradford Cohen explained his release details. So Melly had a bond hearing today, and it's still ongoing. I believe it's 2 o'clock. I think it started at 10 o'clock. It's almost like a mini trial where they are putting on individuals, and they are doing a really nice job with crossing individuals, putting on individuals about confinement and what it does to a person's psyche. It's been, I don't know, going on 8 years, I believe. I think I was hired on this case originally. I think his bond should have been considered before this. Also, this case really, in my opinion, should have been a speedy trial in the first 6 to 8 months of the case. But that's spilled milk at this point. But sadly, YNW Melly would be denied his bond. No jumper wrote. W. Melly's attorney, Drew Finling, has issued a statement on Melly's behalf following Judge Martin Feen's decision to once again deny bond after an Arthur hearing held on April 30th. Melly's lawyer, Drew Finling, would react for Melly on his behalf with this statement, reading, "The court, the state attorney's office, and all who observed this bond hearing should have been deeply troubled by the clear evidence presented regarding the inhumane conditions Melly has endured over the last 7 years, with the last 3 in solitary confinement while being presumed innocent under our Constitution. Yet the court denied bond and allowed those conditions to continue without even acknowledging the circumstances under which he has been forced to live in. The irony is, in the last few days, a nation saw a United States judge apologize to an individual accused of an attempted target of our leader for his days in solitary confinement, and not a word by this court regarding the last 3 years. In the collective decades of experience shared by this defense team, we have never encountered such cruel treatment comparable to what Melly has endured. Numerous colleagues across the legal community have expressed their disbelief and outrage at conditions imposed in this case. YNW Melly remains an innocent man in the eyes of the law, but the state failed to secure conviction once, and we will remain confident they will fail again. Unfortunately, it now appears that only a jury's verdict compelling his release will bring an end to the years of unnecessary and unjust punishment that he has already suffered. With this going viral online, Charleston White's official reaction would be shared. He claimed this is what YNW Melly should be living like, and he shouldn't receive special treatment because he's a famous rapper. The YNW me. I'm so happy he in jail getting mistreated. I'm so happy he in jail getting mistreated. Homie. A homie. When you take a life, homie, you ain't got a right to complain about a mothering thing about being mistreated when you done chose to play somebody. However, the courtroom would explain why YNW Melly's bond was denied. You tell me if it sounds reasonable after hearing it all. Starting with, quote, State prosecutor points to Judge Martin Feen's mention of YNW Melly being seen getting into the vehicle. She adds that Melly is seen getting into the seat where the alleged hitter was sitting in. She also mentions the cellular data that allegedly puts him at the scene of the crime, then says, quote, We know Cortland Henry wasn't the hitter. The defendant was where she would then point towards YNW Melly, then sharing footage of Melly getting into the back left seat. Excuse me, you able to see? Yes, all right. While also sharing footage of YW Juvie's mother confirming that it was Melly who went and sat there as she has known all four YW boys for over a decade. Can you state your name? Your full name of you? Leon. Okay. And am I you related to one of the in this case? Yes, I am. How's his mother? And who is that? Christopher Thomas. Miss Phillips, did you see who entered into the occupants who entered into that great gray Jeep? Yes. Do you recognize where your son entered that gray Jeep? Yes. Which seat? If you can identify for the jury. He got in the back seat on the right-hand side. Did you recognize the individual that got into the back seat on the left side, the rear driver's side? Yes. And who was that individual? Julia. While other investigators believe Melly was denied bond due to him having text messages on his phone of him literally admitting to doing the crime, the PC Gambino account asked him if he was okay, and his response was, I did that, and placed a smiley face emoji. And the next message from 10/26/2018 at 16:02 from Eastern Standard Time, the YW Melly count says what after that HH. There was also footage of YW Melly dancing in a parking lot with Bortland only 5 hours after crime took place, recording a music video. Melly still turned regardless of way after those early mornings. He's still out here being very positive turn still. Hey dog still turn regardless of what happened. You already know. With even rumors of the motive for YW Melly to commit the crime being revealed, where he allegedly asked King Vaughn for advice on how to handle somebody with his secret being exposed by an ex-Oblok member. Did Van really tell you that Melly told him that he was two friends? He ain't come out and say like we got into an argument, and so you know if you know when people can say something without saying it. And so he told me like once I posted what I posted, if he was mad at me he broke why you put up there, bro. I'm like you sitting up in here like you know the love, we got you do this for us, but you going to trust that his two friends, and he said them was trying to extort him, and so I'm like if they was trying to extort him, then why are you still around them? However, YW Melly does have one chance of submitting an appeal for a bond release, and they have leverage to do so due to what YW Bortland did on the night of the crime. This will help Melly receive a release date before trial. But to understand when, it's important to know what Bortland did. It reads, on October 26, Cortland Henry arrived at Memorial Hospital emergency room requesting help for two passengers in his car being Juvie and Sackchaser. Henry was questioned at the hospital by Detective Moetti. He recounted to Detective Moetti a version of events. Henry was then taken to where he claimed the events happened and then answered more questions. Bortland's interrogation on the night of the crime. He was lying to police. Even the police knew that he was lying and exposed him for it. Here's the hard part where we're having a hard time to understand is that we shut down that entire area and we had officers shoulder to shoulder walk it out. They didn't find as much as one shell casing. They didn't find one piece of glass. Nothing to what you said adds up. And it's hard, bro, that I'm telling you, bro. That's the classic. I mean, for whatever reason, your two friends. Are these your good friends? Yeah, that's what I'm saying. These these are your two, I'm assuming, close friends. Yeah, and in your doing them and by not telling us the truth. I'm telling you the truth. Say, I don't like what do you want, how do you make shell casings disappear? I don't know how can I tell you about a shell case? It continues reading. When Henry came into the emergency room, he told officers his car and friends had just been hit up. The officer called for additional law enforcement as she spoke further with Henry. He told her that he just left the studio with his friends. He then stopped at a traffic light when a car pulled up and started using firearms at his car. Henry said he ducked and drove forward, where he would even double down on that during his interrogation. Okay, tell me what happened. Man, I was playing music. Getting off the exit. I was already getting sleepy but almost home. You know what I'm saying? And just out of nowhere, I just heard. You know what I'm saying? And I ducked down. You know what I'm saying? In the car, and I almost crashed blowing. Let me back you up a few minutes. Where were you coming from? I was coming from the studio. From Fort Lauderdale. Fort Lauderdale studio. Which way did you take? I took I-75 or 595 to 75 way. Then you took 75 south. The police officer would then want details of the in-the-moment actions made by W.W. Bortland. Did he see the other car? Did he see a license plate? How was he driving? And did he crash into anything? And I'm driving, ducking for my life, trying to make sure I don't get hit. And you telling me about I don't know. You know what I'm saying? I'm trying to make sure I don't get hit. I'm driving. I'm trying to make sure I don't get hit. You know what I'm saying? What I'm going to be worried about. I know it's not for you to worry about. Crazy, bro. But if you tell me it happened there's got to be some evidence there. There's going to be broken glass, just like there's broken glass over here from when you guys opened the doors and stuff like that. Okay, there's going to be broken glass over there when the windows got out. There's going to be casings from the people at your car. Okay, there's going to be stuff evidence. Over there. Okay, right now there's nothing. I kinda think I know what happened cause I got information where YW. Bortland was clearly lying the entire time to the feds, as Melly's lawyers now want everything to do with Bortland thrown out of the trial because everything he provided was lies. And how are they supposed to defend Melly from the truth and Bortland's lies at the exact same time? The news read, lawyer argues admitting Bortland's statements violates Melly's Sixth Amendment rights to confront. He claims asserting Henry's alleged lies or guilt do not prove Melly's involvement and could bias a jury. His lawyer claims Bortland told police a drive-by occurred after leaving the studio, but investigators found no evidence supporting his account. He explained that Bortland was later charged with M, then pleaded no contest to accessory charges after his M counts were dropped. This puts YNW Melly in a very bad situation because Bortland was given a plea deal to basically get out of the entire court case. Meanwhile, he was always doing very strange things within the case, just like what was found inside of his home. Melly's co-defendant YNW Bortland was booked into a Miami jail Monday night and is being held behind bars on an out-of-count warrant. We just confirmed the warrant is out of Broward County for witness tampering. The warrant obtained by Law and Crime Network states as follows. On or about April 10, 2023, continuing through and including July 22, 2023, Colin Henry, a.k.a. Bortland, along with others, did unlawfully and knowingly engage in misleading conduct toward another person with the intent to cause or induce them to withhold testimony. The warrant continues. The alleged witness had been summoned by the legal process to the jury trial of Jamal Demons, a.k.a. YNW Melly. The dates in the warrant are important. Jury selection for Melly started in mid-April, and a judge declared a mistrial on July 22nd, the same day the warrant claims Bortland allegedly tampered with a witness. Melly's lawyers are questioning why Bortland got off so easy when Bortland has been strange the entire time. It was announced by Bryson Paul. Here are the images of alleged notes discovered during the home raid of W.W. Bortland's home, where Bortland detailed where certain jurors were sitting during the original Melly trial and a description of what they looked like. because Bolin showed up to the Melly trial for one day to get his own hearing set up. But while doing so, he left a mental note of where all the jurors were sitting and a description of what they looked like. Went home and drew out all of it on a piece of paper, making it appear as if these jurors found his best friend guilty. Bolin was going to go slide for Melly. To keep it real, this is sloppy. Boltland, how are you going to have a notebook of the jurors in your house? Holy __. Like, come the on. Like it's like doing and then having the surveillance tape in your DVD player or something like that. You know what I mean? Like, come on, bro. Like they raid your crib and then the end of the surveillance footage of the is in your DVD player. They're like, oh, okay, thank you, brother, this can't be at your crib. Raising the question of why did Boltland get a plea deal out of the case? Meanwhile, Melly isn't even allowed to go on house arrest until the trial begins. However, the concerning part for YNW Melly is Boltland's plea deal will likely sentence Melly to life in prison. It reads, as predicted, YNW Boltland took the plea deal. He also agreed to a proffer, which means that his talking. The sentence is to accessory after the fact. He will do 10 years plus 6 on probation where academics wrote. The judge says on both charges, Boltland pled no contest. To that, he has to provide a factual basis for him to accept the plea, meaning you have to tell a factual story of how you indeed committed accessory to the crime confirming that it happened which YW Melly is charged with. It's a gun plea except with a proffer he can't say yes me has to sing like Franklin. I didn't tweet out today. People are upset. I said this is a gun plea. This is a gun plea. This isn't a plea saying you have to tell him, but this is a plea that you're going to have to provide all the details that they were missing to convict him. And that's why it's a gun plea. Why do I say he signed a gun plea? Because YW Melly and I watched the case. We covered it. YWML's case is at number 1. You guys have not done a job to prove that this is actually they prove that this is a con with this person being the offender. Also, the accessory after the fact plea confirms that Boltland, that's kind of like almost like a sub-SUBP part of conspiracy, except you weren't with a conspiracy at first. You came in after the fact. What that proved is that they came in, oh my god. What that proved is that Boltland worked with someone after he acknowledged that a murder took place in trying to cover it up. Do you hear what I just said? When pleading to an accessory to after the fact, you have to acknowledge that it happened and you assisted someone or in some way to cover the now. If Melly's statement is how do we know, and then secondly, how do we know who did cause they said it was AA Drive-B? An easier way to understand academics' message is Mortland will be required to tell how the crime went down from his perspective. Somebody inside of the car, regardless if he says YW Melly's name or not. When he tells police sack chaser and juvie pass from a situation inside of the car, Melly will then be found guilty as a result. He will be flipping. He is going to be tell all about anything he knows about the double case, and they will know if he's telling the truth or telling a lie when he gives his full quote-unquote confession as to what happened that evening. And that's what happens a lot of times where guys are in the prison for 4 or 5 years awaiting trial and looking at a life sentence, and they are offered 10 years where they'll be home probably in another 3 years at Hillside. He decides to flip and become a cheese eater. And that's what happens a lot of times on these cases. And I was expecting it to happen a lot sooner than it did. He held out for quite some time. But long story short is it looks like it's going to flip, and it makes the case on YW Melly depending on what he says, which I anticipate he'll say that YW Melly is responsible.